Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Sir David Attenborough et aujourd'hui on va regarder. Sorry, I switched a bit too fast to French. Let me speak in English. Hello, I am Sir David Attenborough, and today I will keep reacting to this shitty series made by my good old brother Sir Attenborough. This is a very long advertisement. Wait, everything is out of the wrong ears. Oops. Putain. Sorry about that, it's a classic French mistake. Okay.
Sir Colin Attenborough, and today on The Wild World, I've become
Is it me? Was he very low?
I'm so accustomed to saying that I've forgotten that it's actually Sir Colin November. And before we start today's episode, I'd like to give a big thank you to a member of David's community, Miko, who drew this lovely fan art, which I'm going to put right...
Why am I sweating? Why am I sweating? I get the guitar, you know? That is my favorite weapon of choice. It's the guitar. With all of its strength, it can do a lot more than this bastard can do with his parasol.
Here, it really warms an old man's heart to see this.
You're the same age as me! You're 22! What do you mean you're old?
And you may not know this about me, but I actually happen to review visual novels, although I'm certain you haven't seen any of them. They're posted in a little corner of a Discord server, where very few people have access and even fewer read them. But well, that's why I'm doing this series. So
I don't read them either. I just react with random stuff.
I spent quite a bit of time considering what I'd like to talk about today. And what I
Your wife.
Katawa Shoujo, 4chan's cripple dating simulator, which despite the name, is actually quite excellent. It's very emotional. It caused me physical pain right in here. But that's not what we're...
You don't have a heart. After you did what you did in Africa, you don't have a heart. I have seen you. I have taken an X-ray of you. I have a medical degree in metaphysics and also in good old medical instructions or whatever it's called. I know how your body sees, okay? Why do I always post myself with the other PhDs? Well, I never completed the medical training courses. It was just not me. I couldn't take it to see that many cow blood.
We're going to talk about, because plenty of people have already talked about how it's an excellent game and you should go play it and it's free, and I'll put a link to it in the description if I remember to. No. What we're going to talk about today is its retarded cousin,
PewDiePie?
Everlasting Summer.
PewDiePie?
A Russian game.
PewDiePie?
Do I have to do this, really? I hate this game. I hate it, I loathe it, I despise it. Because what is a bad visual novel? I played the worst visual novel ever made. And it's really not that bad. It's called something along the lines of, "Darling, you liar, your swimsuit jumped over its own weathercock."
Where does this man find his stuff? I thought I knew obscure games, but I know like stuff like Sticker. The fuck is your swimsuit jumped over its own weathercock, you liar? The fuck is a weathercock?
It's generated procedurally, there's no plot, it's completely random. But it's short, it's funny, it doesn't overstay its welcome. No, if you ask me, what a truly bad visual novel does is it bores you. And I hate Everlasting Summer, not because it's boring, because there's just enough interesting stuff happening in it that the rest of it, which is terribly boring, really gets on my tits.
You're a woman now?
You play as this chap named Semyon. He's a sad, pathetic, lonely git, so you'll have quite a bit of trouble relating to him, I'd imagine. And he gets on a late-night bus, and suddenly you get this very interesting sense that the game's very artsy. It's striking, it's special, it introduces a bunch of characters, and I thought I'd play a little game and see how many of those characters I can actually remember before I show you the clip.
Okay, here is my name of all the characters in this game. Here is my version of what all these characters are named. Blind man, woman that I want to have not sex with, anime, my death sentence, Paris, Toulon, like that's just a Marseille. What the fuck is Spain doing here?
Me remember anything about her, except that she was a librarian. So here's how Everlasting Summer begins.
Sorry, I skipped everything, but like, is that the man himself?
So Sammy
Emmanuel Macron.
gets out of the bus and notices the bus is completely different and the weather's completely different and he has no idea where he is. And you are treated to these remarkably beautiful backgrounds that are in striking contrast to the game's sprites, which are fairly good, and the CGs, which are...
Why does that look like my cancer?
In a Soviet-era pioneer camp, probably sometime in the 60s, although I can't quite recall. And already things are very interesting. You don't know why you're here. Everyone else seems to think that it's rather strange that you think anything is strange at all. Semyon now looks more or less as he did when he was in his teenage years. And everyone is acting very strangely, besides the fact that you're preparing to date the mascots of various Russian internet forums.
Oh god, no. I mean, I know these are Russian internet platforms, but like, imagine these, but with like Western. Oh god, no, what would Twitter be? What would Facebook be? What would TikTok be?
And then things get very boring. Initially, there's the mystery of why you're here and what's going on. And then the whole game sort of devolves into summer camp antics. Oh, let's go swimming. Oh, let's play some cards. The card game actually I quite liked, but oh, let's do this and let's do that and go around the camp. And it's interesting at first because you think something's going to happen, but it never does.
Excuse me, were those strawberries chasing a man? God damn, they have copied my nightmares. How did they know my Vietnam?
That on day 4 the game got very interesting very quickly. A member of the camp disappears and you have to go with your girl of choice into the woods to look for him. And then suddenly you fall through the ground and you're in an abandoned Soviet nuclear shelter and you're walking around with a flashlight that doesn't quite work properly.
That face is what I make when I see my wife.
And you find...
And I don't even have...
The missing camp member who's gone feral and he tries to stove your head in with a piece of bent rebar. And then you climb out of the ground and go back to the camp and bake a cake.
That is my Tuesdays.
And that's why I hate this game. Because it gets so interesting. And then it becomes very, very tedious again.
Look, I knew my brother was a bit weird, but does this guy really just want something that is complete action all the time? Man has clearly not played Honeypop and experienced the great prides and best parts of those games.
Besides that, I will note, the game was translated from Russian. It's made by Soviet Games, what do you expect? And the writer really does have a way with words. There are...
He started like laughing like a horse on meth. That is one of the sentences of all time.
A lot of phrases that pop up all over the place, and I find them very interesting. Also a nice touch is that if you're not familiar with Russian and Soviet history, there are these occasional little glossary entries that pop up and tell you what's going on. So, all in all, nice touches, but frankly the game as a whole is a perfect balance, I would say. There's just enough interesting content in it that you want to play it to see what happens, and there's just enough boring content that it's really, really tedious to do so.
That sounds like a Tuesday for me.
Do you know what? I've changed my mind. Let's talk about Katsuba Shoujo instead. You play as Hisao, a young man who's just had a terrible heart attack and discovers he has arrhythmia. He's sent to a school for the disabled where he encounters a lot of much better written characters than the ones in Evolution.
We are just two children pretending to be adults, aren't we? Are these supposed to be children? A little near-death experience is no excuse for skipping basic exercise. You little bitch, okay? You're skipping basic exercise? I won't shake hands with you, but at least we know who we are now.
Lasting summer, and over time you get the chance to grow close to and date some of them. And it's just a very nice game. It's very...
You know what? I get it. I would also paint with my feet if I knew how to.
Very well written. It's heartwarming, it's touching, it stabs you right in the heart over and over again, but we love it for it.
I think in the end, I'm not really that happy with who I am either, but that doesn't mean I regret being who I am. A French guy.
It has things to say, it means something. Really, you should just
That guy looks like my brother.
play that instead.
Not him, another brother.
But don't you worry your pretty little head that this week's game rather sucked, because next week we're going to talk about a much more interesting game. We're going to talk about Mice Tea.
Hey, wait, what? Wait, what? Excuse, what? What? What?